never thought I'd end up cleaning houses for the rich. But debt makes you humble fast. Credit cards stacked against me. Medical bills I didn't even want to look at anymore. I needed money, and I needed it badly. When the agency called about an opening at a celebrity's mansion, I said yes before they even told me whose place it was. The mansion was the kind of place you only ever see in magazines. Acres of polished marble, chandeliers that looked like frozen lightning, staircases wide enough to drive a car down. On the first day, I was overwhelmed. But the pay? More than I'd ever seen. Enough to make me forget the unease I felt when I first walked through the gates. The head housekeeper gave me the rules in a clipped voice, like a teacher scolding a child. Keep the place spotless. Don't speak to guests unless spoken to. Never go near the locked room on the 3rd floor. She didn't explain. She didn't need to. Everyone on staff already knew. That door was sacred, untouchable. And for a while, I didn't question it. My days fell into rhythm. Dusting endless bookshelves. Polishing floors that no one ever walked on. Arranging flowers that wilted too quickly in air that felt too still. I kept my head down, cashed my checks, and told myself I could survive the silence of that house if it meant digging out of debt. But the 3rd floor hallway always gnawed at me. It was different from the rest of the house. The wallpaper was faded, peeling in places, and the air smelled faintly of mildew, like the ocean trapped in wood. And at the very end, that door. Heavy oak, black iron handle, no keyhole. Always locked. Sometimes, late at night, when the rest of the staff had gone, I swore I heard sounds from behind it. Not voices exactly, more like breathing. Long, measured inhales, followed by a low, rattling exhale. Too slow to be mechanical. Too heavy to be the wind. I told myself it was the pipes. Old houses always have noises. But then came the morning I found it ajar. I was carrying fresh linens up the stairs when I noticed the door. Open just a crack. Wide enough to see the edge of darkness beyond. My stomach tightened instantly. That door had never been open. Not once. I set the linens down and stood there, frozen, debating. Every instinct told me to walk away, but debt and desperation have a way of dulling fear. If I got blamed for leaving it open, if someone thought I'd broken the rule, I'd lose the job. I couldn't afford that. So I nudged it wider. The smell hit me first. Damp. Stale with something sour underneath, like flowers left in water until the stems rot. Dust floated in the thin beam of light spilling from the hallway. The room was nearly empty. Bare floorboards, a single chair in the center, and the bed. The sheets were fresh, still warm, as if someone had just risen from them. I knew for a fact my boss had been out of the country for 2 weeks. I was the first one in the house every morning. There was no reason for that bed to be warm. At the foot of it, scattered like playing cards, were Polaroids. Dozens of them. I bent down, picked one up. My heart stopped. It was me. Not just me. Me that morning. Standing at the sink in the staff kitchen, pouring coffee. Same shirt, same hair pulled back. The angle was strange, as if taken from just inches behind my shoulder. I dropped it, hands shaking, and grabbed another. This time, it was one of the other maids, asleep in her bed. Another showed one of the cooks outside on a smoke break. Every Polaroid was of us. Staff, living our lives, unguarded, completely unaware. The air in the room felt heavier the longer I stood there. The bed still radiated warmth, as if whoever had been in it had just slipped away seconds before. A floorboard creaked behind me. I spun, expecting to see someone. Maybe another maid, maybe security. But the hall was empty. The door was still open, but I couldn't shake the feeling that if I stayed 1 second longer, it would slam shut with me inside. I shoved the Polaroids back onto the floor, forced myself out, and yanked the door closed. It locked with a heavy click. I didn't sleep that night. Every shadow in my small room twisted into the shape of a camera pointed at me. I checked my phone over and over, looking for hidden apps, spyware, anything that might explain the photos. Nothing. My chest ached with every shallow breath. The next morning I went back to work, pale and shaking. No one mentioned the room. No one acted like anything was wrong. Until I returned to my quarters that evening. On my pillow sat a Polaroid. Fresh, crisp. It was me, standing in the doorway of the locked room that morning. Eyes wide, mouth half open. Caught in the exact moment I realized what I was looking at. I wanted to quit. Every part of me screamed to walk away. But the debt, it dragged me back. I told myself I'd just ignore it, keep my head down. That lasted 2 days. On the third night, the door was ajar again. I didn't go in. I didn't even look inside. I bolted past, heart hammering, trying not to hear the slow, rattling exhale drifting through the gap. Now, the Polaroids keep coming. Sometimes on my pillow, sometimes tucked into my apron. Always me, always candid. Last night showed me lying in bed, staring at the ceiling with wide, sleepless eyes. The strangest part? In the corner of that photo, barely visible, is the open door at the end of the hall. And something sitting in the chair, waiting. If you ever find yourself cleaning a house after dark, remember, not everything you find belongs to the living. Some secrets were never meant to be uncovered. So before your next shift reveals more than you bargained for, like, comment, and share this to warn others. And hit subscribe before midnight strikes, because you never know what's still hiding in the rooms you thought were empty. I became a maid for her because I thought it would be easy. She was single, no kids, barely ever home with all the traveling she did. I figured it would just be a quiet paycheck. Dust some shelves, keep the air moving, maybe water the plants she never saw. Easy work, good pay, no drama. At least that's what I told myself. The house itself was strange. Big, but not warm. Polished floors that never carried footsteps, mirrors hung where windows should have been, and long hallways that seemed to stretch farther at night. But the thing that stood out the most was the room at the end of the second floor corridor. The nursery. No one talked about it, but I noticed the door right away. Pale yellow paint, soft pastel decals of stars, and clouds along the frame. It didn't fit the rest of the cold, modern house at all. One afternoon, when the other staff weren't around, I peeked inside. The room looked like a catalog spread. White crib with lace sheets. A rocking horse that gleamed as though it had never been touched. A mobile of tiny glass moons spinning silently above the crib. Even the air smelled different, faintly sweet, like powdered milk and baby lotion. But she didn't have kids, everyone knew that. So why keep a nursery? Weeks passed, and I learned quickly that the staff avoided the room completely. When vacuuming the hall, we'd stop just short of the doorway. When dusting, no one touched the frame, as though entering it, or even acknowledging it, was forbidden. I wasn't brave enough to ask. The housekeeper gave me a look once, when she caught me glancing toward it. Sharp, warning. That was enough to keep my questions locked inside. Until the day she gave the order. It was late afternoon. She had returned from a trip overseas, drifting through the house in sunglasses and silence. She passed me in the hall without a word, then paused mid-step. "Go clean the nursery," she said. Her voice was flat, careless, like she was asking me to polish silver. Then she walked away. The air around me seemed to grow heavier. I didn't want to do it. But what could I say? No one said no to her. The nursery was worse in daylight. The curtains let in thin stripes of sun that cut across the crib and floor. Dust floated in the beams, though the room itself was immaculate. No fingerprints, no footprints, nothing that said life. I started with the rocking horse. My rag left no mark. It was spotless. The shelves of toys were lined like soldiers, wooden blocks and plush animals all staring forward with wide glassy eyes. Then the crib. I leaned over, brushing the railing with polish, when the mobile above me began to turn. Slow at first, then steady, the glass moons clinking softly against one another. I hadn't touched it. There was no breeze. I froze, rag in hand, watching it spin faster. Then I heard it. A sound so faint, I thought I'd imagined it at first. A soft coo, like a baby's laugh muffled through walls. It came from inside the crib. My skin prickled. I leaned closer, peering between the lace sheets. Empty. Perfectly made. The coo came again, this time behind me. I whipped around, rag slipping from my hand. The rocking horse had moved. It was angled differently than before, facing the crib now, its shadow stretched across the rug like a crouched figure. I backed toward the door, heart racing. That's when I saw the photo. Tucked into the corner of the bookshelf, hidden behind a row of wooden blocks, was a small black and white photograph in a cracked silver frame. My breath caught as I pulled it out. It was her, the woman I worked for. Younger, maybe 10 years ago. She was holding a baby wrapped in blankets, smiling faintly at the camera. But I remembered her interviews, the gossip articles, the endless tabloids. She had always said she never wanted kids. So who was this child? And where was it now? I shoved the photo back and bolted from the room, closing the door harder than I meant to. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that cooing, soft and near my ear. At one point, I swore I saw my curtains shift, like someone small was crawling beneath them. I tried to tell myself it was exhaustion, stress, imagination. But the next morning when I returned to the house, there was something waiting for me. In my cleaning cart, tucked neatly between bottles of polish and stacks of folded cloths, was the photograph. The same cracked silver frame. The same baby. Only this time, there was another picture tucked behind it. Me, standing in the nursery, head bowed over the crib. And though I never heard the click of a camera, though I never saw anyone near that room with me, the photo was real. I wanted to quit. I wanted to walk out and never look back. But I didn't. Debt kept me anchored. Fear of asking questions kept me silent. The days bled together. The nursery door remained closed. I didn't go near it. But then last week, as I passed the hall, I heard it again. The mobile spinning. The cooing. Louder now, rising into a wail. And over it all, a woman's voice. Her voice, whispering softly like a lullaby. I didn't stay to hear the words. I ran. But when I got home that night, my phone buzzed with a new photo notification. No sender, no number. Just the image. The crib. And inside it, a baby wrapped in blankets. Its tiny fist clutched a rag I recognized instantly. The same rag I dropped that day in the nursery. I was fresh out of high school when I got hired. My family needed money, and cleaning for a celebrity sounded like the perfect job. Glamorous, easy, maybe even fun. I pictured red carpets, free clothes, brushing shoulders with famous people in hallways, and for a while it felt that way. Her closet was the crown jewel. Bigger than my whole apartment, 3 chandeliers sparkling over rows of designer gowns, shelves stacked with shoes worth more than my college tuition. I spent hours there, dusting silk, polishing mirrors, rearranging handbags by color and season. It was overwhelming, but beautiful. Except for one thing. At the very back of the closet, half hidden behind a rack of coats, sat an old wooden chest. It didn't belong. Everything else screamed wealth and fashion. But this? It was battered oak, edges scarred, brass lock dark with rust. Like it had been dragged from an attic no one wanted to remember. We were told not to touch it. No explanation, just a rule. So for months I didn't, but it gnawed at me. Every time I passed it, I felt like it was waiting. Not just a box, but something with a presence. Something aware. And then one evening, when I was alone in the house, I gave in. The lock was old, but not secure. A little pressure, a little tug, and it snapped open. The smell hit me first. Damp, metallic, like a cellar where water had pooled and rusted for years. I gagged, covering my mouth as I lifted the lid. Inside wasn't what I expected. No jewels, no heirlooms, no hidden stash of expensive shoes. Instead, there were clothes. Tiny clothes. Children's clothes, laid neatly in rows, yellowed with age. Dresses, socks, little shoes with buckles. Some folded carefully, others crumpled like they'd been shoved in quickly. And then I saw the photographs. Dozens of them. Black and white and Polaroids stacked together. I picked one up, my hands trembling. It was her, the celebrity. Younger, maybe 20. Smiling at the camera, crouched beside a child I didn't recognize. A little girl in a frilly dress, the next photo. The same girl, older now, standing stiffly, expression blank. The next. The girl in the closet I was standing in, surrounded by clothes that weren't her size, her hands pressed against the same wooden chest. I flipped through faster and faster, each photo worse than the last. The girl is thinner, paler. The celebrity smiled less, her eyes darker. Then suddenly no more pictures of the girl at all, just the celebrity. Older, richer, always posing beside the chest. And then the last photo. It was recent. Taken with a phone. It was me. I froze. My uniform. My hair tied back. My reflection caught in the mirror as I dusted the racks. I had never seen anyone take it. I dropped the photos, heart slamming against my ribs, and shoved the lid closed. But as it shut, I heard something. A scrape from inside the chest. I stumbled back, crashing into a rack of dresses. For a moment, the world tilted. I told myself I imagined it, a trick of panic, nerves making my ears ring. But then, the scrape came again. Louder, like fingernails dragging along the wood. I bolted, slamming the closet door shut, my breath tearing from me. That night I couldn't sleep. Every shadow looked like that chest. Every creak in my apartment sounded like it was opening. I told myself to quit, to never go back. But I didn't. Rent doesn't wait for fear. When I returned the next morning, everything was neat, perfect, untouched. The chest sat quietly in its corner, locked again, like nothing had ever happened. Only one thing was different. On the vanity, laid carefully where I couldn't miss it, was a photograph. New, glossy, me again, sleeping in my own bed. Now I know I was never supposed to open that chest. Not because it was dangerous for her, but because it was dangerous for me. And whatever's inside it knows my name now. I took the job because it was steady work, reliable pay, consistent hours, and a celebrity employer whose name alone made my family jealous. People would have killed for the chance to step foot inside her mansion. I was scrubbing her floors twice a week. At first, it felt like a dream. Her place was a palace. Glass staircases, imported marble, entire wings that looked more like art museums than living spaces. She wasn't home much, but when she was, she moved through the house like a ghost, quiet and private. The job came with rules, though. Lots of them. Don't answer the door. Don't let paparazzi sneak photos. Don't touch certain costumes. The ones stored in sealed garment bags, with labels I couldn't pronounce. Most of those I understood, but one rule never made sense. Never uncover the mirror in the basement. It was written in bold at the bottom of the employee handbook, right under no smoking on property. Everyone on staff had been told the same thing. Don't ask, don't peek, don't even dust near it. I thought it was ridiculous. A mirror, covered with a sheet. I figured it was just eccentric celebrity nonsense. Maybe she was superstitious or didn't like her reflection. Then, one afternoon, while dusting, my hand brushed against the sheet, just enough to tug it off balance. The fabric slipped, and the mirror was revealed. Only, it wasn't a mirror at all. At first glance, it looked like one. A tall frame, silver edges carved with ornate details, glass smooth and polished, but when I looked into it, my reflection wasn't there. The basement shelves behind me were, the boxes stacked in corners, the flickering light overhead, but not me. I leaned closer, heart hammering, and the longer I stared, the less the room looked like the one I was standing in. The boxes were gone. The shelves, too. The walls looked rotted, wet with streaks of something black dripping down. And in the middle of that space, the reflection that wasn't mine, a figure stood. It was tall, too tall to be human, with limbs that bent at wrong angles. Its head tilted slightly, watching me, though it had no face. I stumbled back, and the sheet slipped fully to the floor. The thing in the mirror moved closer. Not in steps, in jerks. Like the glass was cutting out frames of film and stitching them together wrong. 1 second far away, the next nearly pressed against the glass. I ran. For the rest of my shift, I refused to go back down. I shoved the basement door shut, told myself it was a trick of the light, an overactive imagination. But that night, at home, I dreamed of it. Of the mirror, of the thing. I woke up gasping, and in the corner of my dark bedroom, I swore I saw a reflection where no mirror was. Just for a second. I convinced myself to return to work. Bills don't stop just because you're scared. But when I stepped back into the basement days later, the sheet was back in place. Perfectly draped, like it had never slipped. Only one thing was different. Pinned to the cloth with a silver tack was a Polaroid photo of me, staring into the mirror. I never touched the sheet again. Never looked too long in that direction. But I knew the mirror hadn't forgotten me. I could feel it when I walked past, like static crawling over my skin. And sometimes, late at night when I'm home, brushing my teeth or switching off lights, I catch something in the corner of my eye. Not my reflection. A glimpse of a basement that isn't mine. And a figure that waits. Faceless. Patient. For the moment, I let the mirror fully see me again.